If you haven't seen the photo, I am missing my right leg below the knee. Actually, I have one of my running legs here. So this is a leg that I use when I'm running and competing. Currently, right now, I'm training for a triathlon, and I start in the USA development camps starting next month in Florida at Ron John Cocoa Beach. So I'll be able to race in kind of in your neighborhood. Last month, I was in Miami and I won the physically challenged division in Miami for the triathlon at Homestead Speedway. So my journey of being an athlete, especially a triathlete, of running, biking, and and swimming, T has been instrumental in recovery after a long day. And like you alluded to, the anti-inflammatories, one of my favorite, the hibiscus, the Wulong as well. What you guys have sent over to me, I think is just amazing. A product that you can kind of supplement throughout the day. Again, morning, lunchtime, and as well as in the evening. My wife, she has a head condition called vestibular neuritis, and that was part of our discovery on T. In December, she got diagnosed, and she's also a registered nurse in surgical ICU. She was working in the hospital, and T was one of the ways, along with meditation, as we know, they kind of align themselves for her recovery and one of her major remedies. And that's kind of how what we started doing around our household, which helped us. Because me being an athlete and her going through her condition, we needed to find ways, and being parents, to calm ourselves down. And it hasn't been an easy road for me. Just to kind of get into my story about my leg, I was born with a birth defect called fibula hemimelia, and I was born with two toes, no ankle, and I was, basically had a flat foot, if you will. My mother was only 22 years old, and she had to make a decision to amputate my leg. The options were to do limb lengthening or bone regeneration, and she decided to go with amputation. I can be here today to say she made the best decision, for my life possible. And growing up, it wasn't easy because my leg wasn't my only situation that I had to overcome. 2 days before Christmas, when I was 3 years old, my house burned down. One of my earliest memories, as my mother woke me up, said the house was on fire. She carried me outside, told me to hop to my neighbor. I asked her where she was going. She said she was going back in to get my prosthetic leg. My aunt, her sister, suffered third-degree burns all over her body as she jumped out of the second-story window. And my grandmother, unfortunately, never made it out of the house. That point on, my mother and my aunt, they took care of me as two single women because my father was in and out of my life. He was there, but he wasn't there. So they picked up two jobs. They sent me to a private school where I didn't have to wear clothes, and I could maybe, they felt like I would get bullied less, but kids are kids. I often got made fun of, and I had to learn how to fend for myself, again, as they were working two jobs. And that led me to be in the care of various family members, aunts, uncles, my grandparents, my dad's side of the family. And within that, I was physically abused by a family member for a few years, which then led me to be sexually abused by a family member for a few years. And so this is all by the age of 11, 12. So here I am, house fire, missing my leg, victim of abuse. Why? Why me? Just depressed, insecure, trying to figure out how I can overcome my circumstances. And my mother often told me, you wouldn't be given anything that you can't handle, to stay positive. Although she couldn't necessarily relate to everything that was happening in my life, she was, the cornerstone and my nucleus, and just continued to not only tell me to keep fighting, but she showed me as she lost her mother and lost her father, and obviously gave birth to a child who had a disability. She showed me how hard she worked and how positive she stayed through any adversity that we faced as a family. So growing up, I never met any amputees. I often felt like an alien, like an outcast. And it's hard enough, when you're a teenager and you're young and you just want to fit in and you're a minority in New York, just trying to figure out who you are, where you are. And then her sending me to private school and seeing kids who had two-parent households and able to afford all of these nice clothes. And here I am, I have, two or three pairs of uniforms that I'm recycling all the time. It was an interesting, dynamic. And I had a bad limp and I was searching, searching, searching. But I felt something inside of me, something that was pushing me in a fire to say that I was special, that I was different. And again, growing up in New York, music and hip hop was very prominent. I'm turning 34 in about 5 days. And, you know, back then, hip hop, it was just everything. And so Tupac was one of my role models. And going through all these trials and tribulations, as I became a rapper, I would often call myself the prosthetic leg Tupac, because I had these tragic situations that were kind of carrying in my life. And I started writing music from writing poetry. And I listened to a lot of Romeo and Juliet. Leonardo DiCaprio's movie had came out when I was about in middle school. So poems were everything. And I would write some of those words and send them to girls. That's when you used to write notes, opposed to
Oh
text and
yeah.
and I turned it into music, and that was my outlet. But I often played sports. I played sports my entire life. And while playing sports, my foot would break. My mom would duct tape them, and I would continue to play basketball, baseball, football. But music was my everything. So I created a rap group called Prophecy, which actually I have tattooed on my wrists. I made it into an acronym, stands for a powerful revolution of people helping each other succeed. Why? Because we have to. I wanted people to respect me for my message, not degrading women, not just drugs, and then them to see my leg and say, "Hey, this guy's inspiring." So I thought that was my calling. I thought that was my purpose, and I created this rap group, Prophecy. My rap name was Chino, from my grandfather. His name was Robert, and when I was 16, he passed away. He actually worked at the Port Authority in JFK, and when he retired in 1996, he retired as the highest paid police officer in the United States at that time. So when he passed away, he was, again, one of my role models. So I took his nickname Chino. I added the word Vega because you have to sound cool. And Chino Vega was my rap name. You guys can actually Google, or go to YouTube and look up Chino Vega, Vegaa with two A's, and see some of my music videos. I had long hair, braids, and that was my calling at that time. Should I rap for you guys? I think I have a little rap for you guys. Should I? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. I encourage to use your brain and to think logical. Call me Rob Cruz, Mission Limb Possible. My team's unstoppable. I'm confident for any challenges. Better when we stick together. People would balance us. If you didn't know, check your watch. It's my time. Might be missing a leg, but I'm stronger in the mind. Intervention is divine. I shine through the darkest nights because I never give up. Always keep the fight. I'm taking charge like weight room pumping up. And when they doubt it, bow, it's gonna mess them up. And I got guys missing hands that you can't touch. Check my logo, promo. Yes, the brand's up. Always knew this is exactly what I'm sent to do. But now I'm speaking to you so you can see the view. Maybe take a picture and keep looking. Too much heat in the kitchen. Yeah, I'm cooking. Never stop stirring the pot. We keep it pushing. Show 'em I can when people told me I couldn't. It's Slim Possible. And that's a little rap for you guys.
Yes,
Thank you.
I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to make positive music, but I didn't become a famous rapper. So my highlight is to rap in front of you guys. And
Love it. That was amazing.
thank you so
Whoop,
much.
whoop.
Thank you. Thank you. And so that was my outlet, as a young man growing up, was to make music. So then I started trying to, again, find myself and my prosthetist. So my leg is called a prosthetic leg. And the people who make our legs are called prosthetists. My prosthetist at the time said, I know you love making music, but I think you should come with me to speak to this gentleman. He was 46 years old and he had diabetes and he was having to have his leg amputated. He had held it off for 8 months. So I'm missing my leg below the knee. I have a functioning knee. He was having his leg amputated above the knee. And if he would have done it sooner, he would have been able to keep his knee, which would have made his life a little easier. I went to the hospital. I spoke with him for about an hour. He told me how much I inspired him and that he wished he would have met me sooner so he could have kept his knee. He didn't know at that time he was inspiring me. And that changed my life. I knew I needed to do more of this. So I started volunteering my time and meeting people all around the hospitals in New York. My prosthetist again at that time said, "Hey, there's a television show called Ink Masters, and they're looking for amputees to do tattoos on prosthetic legs." So I said, "Okay." She said, "You can submit to it. No guarantee that you'll get on the show, but you can try." I submit and I got on the show. You guys actually can go watch it now. It's on Netflix, season 1, episode 5, and you'll see me again with the braids. And it was an amazing experience. I was 22 years old and I wasn't ready to tell my sad story, some of the things that I told you guys. I was just happy to be on TV. They asked me what I wanted on my prosthetic leg. I said, a microphone. You should hear me rap. I'm nice. So that's what they did, but they wanted to highlight the guy who got his leg bitten off by a shark or the car accident. But I got some good TV time. Again, you guys can go watch it for yourself. Ink Master season 1, episode 5. And I started pursuing more television. From that point on, I got on various shows, such as Force Verdon, which was on FX, CBS, The Code, which was on CBS, another show on, on Netflix called Damages, season 5, episode 7, another show on Netflix called 7 Seconds. I'm in 7 seconds for about 3 seconds. Don't blink, but it was a good show, and they paid me for it. So I started getting paid to be on TV, and I said, "This is amazing." My most notable show, as Shannon alluded to, was American Ninja Warrior, season 9, and all throughout the time I was doing these television shows, at the same time, I started to drift away from music a little bit because I realized my calling was starting to use my leg. I hid from this so long, I started using my calling. I'm sure we can all relate to that. So my purpose, my passion was music, but I was starting to find my purpose. And sometimes we might be passionate about something, and that's where our heart is, but we're here for a different reason. We have a purpose, just like Joseph's Tea, right? I'm sure it started from one place, and now the purpose is to help people. It's not just about the tea, it's about to help people. It's a greater mission, and that's why we're all here, and we've taken the time out of our day to be here together. There's a bigger purpose inside of all of us, and I realized my purpose was to help others. Throughout that time while I was doing the TV shows, I joined this basketball team called Amp One, the first stand-up amputee basketball team. And if you know, for people with disabilities, they want you to play basketball in a wheelchair, but we were playing in our prosthetic legs full court. At that point, we had Nike as a sponsor, we had a prosthetic manufacturer as a sponsor, and we started doing NBA halftimes, playing in front of 20,000 people. It was amazing. Guys missing their legs and arms, beating up and winning games versus people with all their limbs. It was like a sight to see. And I thought that was the calling. And what we would do is we would go around. When we flew into a city, we would also speak to people, to schools and to companies. And my second trip, we went to Indiana. We spoke at a church. We won the basketball game. And when we got back to our hotel room, a young lady who was 13 years old sent us a Facebook message saying our message to never give up inspired her. She was going to take her life and commit suicide that weekend. Her best friend convinced her to come to our speech, and that us speaking changed her life. And I knew that sports was everything, but the speaking was a little bit more. And I needed to do that because that was my calling. The purpose opened up more. So I thought it was music, I thought it was basketball, but then it started to translate into music, to speaking. So I created Lim Possible, my own speaking company, where I've been able to travel all around the world, speak to CNBC, to speak at Nike, the U.S. Department of Health, over 100,000 students, not only kids with disabilities, but kids who are obese, kids who have been abused, kids who have Down syndrome or autism, cancer, whatever it is, all over the spectrum, suicide, to share my story and to open up more about how I overcame these obstacles. So I created this company while doing that. But my wife and I, we had our first child throughout this time too. And I also needed to bring in more money, as we all do. So I was also able to get hired at a prosthetic company. I volunteered for a year for about 3 to 4 years, and I couldn't get a job in the prosthetic industry. And luckily, I was taking my son trick or treating, and there was a young lady who was hopping around on crutches. I told her a little bit about what I told you guys, and I inspired her to wear her prosthetic so she could not be on crutches, because that would be hard later on in life on her back and her body. Well, little did I know, her father owned a prosthetic company. And that was how opportunity worked. Being at the right place at the right time gave me my first salary job. And I worked at that company for about 5 years. And I did all the things that I kind of explained to you about while I was working there. I made the USA amputee soccer team. I went to the World Cup in 2018. You guys can Google that as well. Team USA versus Nigeria. And I scored a World Cup goal versus them. So that's in the world record books. And I made the USA development sitting volleyball team, played sled hockey, and again did a lot of these things, as well as in 2017 I won the National Disability Employment Award. From now volunteering my time all around New York, I was getting paid to help people in hospitals learn how to walk again, get jobs, and to discover themselves, and I won an award for that in 2017. So my life started to take off. My purpose was unrevealed, and I stopped fighting the wave, which was my leg, and I started riding the wave and embracing it. We're all hiding something. We all have a story, especially coming out of this last year. We all have things that we've been through, but sometimes we hide them up, we cover them, and we're ashamed. And my life started to come together when I started sharing and being less ashamed of who I was and what I looked like. And once I did that and I was able to embrace myself, I realized the world was ready to embrace me as well. So within I did that with doing all of these amazing things. I then Newsday, if you're if you know New York Newsday, we then did a 17-minute documentary about my life. It's called Able. You guys can look it up as well, ABLE. And then in 2019, it was nominated for an Emmy. And to have my life story nominated on an Emmy scale was just amazing. My mother and I, we don't come from much. And I explained to you guys in a few minutes, but going through it, I felt like I was in the twilight zone, and to have it nominated on that scale was just everything. Also was able to be a founder for the Lim Kine Foundation, where then I stopped helping people in the country and we started helping people in different countries. So right in the brink of COVID, this time last year, I was just getting back from Africa. We went to the Philippines, we went to Haiti, and we got out over 100 prosthetic legs to children who've never walked before, who might have been in the same leg for 10 years, and they need to work, especially in these, in impoverished countries. So now I was able to help children all around the world who didn't have outlets, who didn't have the money or the resources to have a quality of life. And to do these things was just phenomenal. So I wanted to do more. And then I got hired by the company back that I went to as a kid and I was volunteering at, which is Hanger Prosthetics. And I've been there for about 2 years. I'm a community care coordinator there. It's the largest prosthetic company in the world. They allow me to run my business. They allow me to work for them and to play sports at a high level. And right now I'm training for triathlon to basically to go to the Paralympics. I'm hoping it would be this year, but it's looking like 2024 Paris. And right now, just putting my body and my mind through a different realm of swimming, biking, and running. But not only that, I'm a father of 2 children. I'm a husband. My wife, again, she's a registered nurse, and she was working in Long Island in a hospital in surgical ICU at the brink of COVID. So she suffered PTSD. In October, I took on more so that she can leave her job and become an infusion nurse, so that this way she can be one and feel with herself, because she felt like she wasn't being treated properly. So this time has been interesting for myself and my family as I continue to stay busy. And, Joseph's Tea has been extremely supportive and they've been promoting. And I've been trying to juggle. I've been trying to juggle so many things. And interesting enough, before I close up, I was just saying to myself today, so I'm here on a family trip and I have so many things coming up and travels, and I'm just like overwhelmed. I'm completely overwhelmed, to be honest with you guys. And I'm like, I'm saying to myself, I don't know how to do it. And I'm a big man of faith. And I said it to God today, as my kids are fighting and they're not even appreciating what we're doing and so many things going on. I'm like, what, I can't keep up with all this. That's what I was saying to myself this morning. I just can't keep up with everything. It's just, I'm here, I'm there. And I'm trying to figure it out. And I write things down. And, when I do that, I try to learn how to have some tea, right? And zen myself, and I say, I kind of just leave it to God, and so what ended up happening to me today is interesting enough. So we take our kids to the Amish country, right? Because I'm here in Pennsylvania in Lancaster, just to try to show them how different people live. So we spent an hour in the Amish tour, which was great, and then we took them to this playhouse, and then they were excited. But then they're like, we want to get back to the pool. Let's go to the hotel. Let's get to the pool. And I said, let me just calm down. Let me just stop being so aggravated. Let me try to calm down. So long story short, we stopped. My wife and I stopped to kind of just to get a sandwich, to get some gas, and we drive past a bank. And so I also did a program for this bank called Citizens Bank, which is in Boston, which is in Ohio, which is here in Pennsylvania. And we drive by and I'm like, hey, there's Citizens Bank. And my wife is like, hey, there you are. Your picture is huge on the front of the bank. I just saw it as another sign. And that God was saying to me that you're on the right path. Here you are. Continue to keep working, have some tea, and relax. So that's where I am for tea time. And I wanted to share that with you guys. Before I even close out, my closing statements are, I've been calling this the COVID cocoon, right? And the reason why, because butterflies have been the sign for me. And we have been confined because of COVID to our certain places and certain people, and like a caterpillar, right? And caterpillars sometimes gets confined to the cocoon. They start off as ground creatures. They have all these legs and they only can crawl and they're not very fast. But when they go into the cocoon, It's a dark space. They're by themselves, but and who knows how they feel when they're going through these growing pains of growing wings and things. But when they come out, they're beautiful, they're bright, and we are coming out of this cocoon now. And I hope you guys all are just taking time for yourself, having some tea, and becoming beautiful and bright, because you'll be able to fly. And this is a perfect time for us to just find ourselves, and just appreciate what we have, the ups and downs, appreciate what you lost, because sometimes we would have never let it go if it wasn't taken from us. So appreciate all of that. And I'll leave you with two quotes. Let the fire inside you burn brighter than the fire around you. And I'm going to say that again. Let the fire inside you burn brighter than the fire around you. And the second one is, if you can't do great things, do small things in a great way. And I'll say that again. If you can't do great things, do small things in a great way. I just appreciate you guys allowing me to speak. Shannon, Gerby, thank you so much for having me. And I love Joseph's tea. So let me sip some.
Thank you, Robert. That is such an amazing story. I'm so delighted that we get to partner with you and help promote Limb Possible and all the amazing things that you're doing and the amazing human being that you are as well. So thank you for sharing your story with us. Truly touching, and God bless you and your family. So thank you. Well, that's tough to follow, right? I have more to talk about, and I'm like,